And it's a strange one because it's written in D flat, and I've been trying to play it solo in D flat, and it's sort of hard. But
can you play it a little bit?
In D flat, and it's got that alternate bass almost.
This clip comes from a conversation that I had with fingerstyle guitarist Adam Miller last year around Christmas time. I should say that Adam is a friend of mine. We've played shows together here in the US and also in his native Australia. And he even wrote and recorded a tune that he named after me, which I thought was super sweet. This video was originally released as an exclusive for the subscribers on my Patreon channel. I'm releasing it now here on YouTube publicly because there's a lot in it that I want to share with you. Adam Miller talks about some of his big influences like Tommy Emmanuel, who he toured with, and Charlie Hunter and John Mayer. And while the influence of those players is something that you can still pick up on in Adam's style, he's gone a long way to develop his own unique approach to modern fingerstyle guitar. And I think there's a lot of takeaways here for anybody who's under the spell of some great players, but looking for ways to find themselves inside all of that and beyond that. Adam shares some really fun stories here and some great lessons, some valuable takeaways. I want to get out of the way and let you get to it. I'm about to do that, but before I do, just a bit of housekeeping. If you enjoy this channel, Guitar Tips, you can support the channel by liking, by subscribing, by picking up a t-shirt, even beyond things you can do with a click in the real world, in real life. Just mention to a friend, hey, there's this cool channel on YouTube that I've been digging. You should check it out. I appreciate your support. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Adam Miller. What is this guitar?
This is a little Harmony. It's what's called a Harmony Juno. And yeah, I've had it for a couple of years. I always loved the Stratotone Harmony. Like, I love this body shape, but they got really expensive to buy.
They did. They used to just
be really cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's actually one, it might even still be there at Chelsea Guitars, a gold one.
Yeah.
And I think if it's still there, it's been there for like 10 years, and I've watched the price just go up from like $1,000 to like $6,000 or something now. But yeah, so they made these again, so these are new, and it's cool, and I've just got it with me on this trip because we're on vacation, not on tour, so it's like, it fits easily everywhere. And, you know, the only cool thing that I did different to it, I took off the locking machine heads because they were really heavy, so I just had these lying around at home, so it doesn't fall down as much, but it still does. And I got these pickups that are like the ones Frizzell has, because I'm a crazy Frizzell nut. So I've used this guitar to test a few different pickups, which has been fun. So I've had like TV Jones, Tiamans, in here, and they come with like a funny P90 gold foil thing when you get them, which is cool as well. And yeah, this. And yeah, I think actually Madison still plays this guitar stock. She has one they made for her.
Oh, I've seen that one. It's red,
Yeah,
right? And it
yeah.
has a name on it.
I think it's either her name or her grandmother's name.
I think it's her grandmother's name.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So you use this as like a platform for testing pickups that might ultimately go somewhere else?
That's what I've been doing with it, yeah. And just playing it. I think when I first got it, I had set it up as a baritone with flat wounds, and that was cool for a while. And then I got something else to do that. So I guess just in the last, few years being at home more, I had the opportunity to play more guitars. So this was one of them. Yeah.
And I see that the truss rod cover is off. Or is it something you're having to adjust a bunch?
No, it just was really white. I didn't like the look of it.
Oh.
It was just this big white piece of plastic, and I just thought it looked cooler without it. So.
Well, it looks cool.
Yeah, I should put something over it. I don't know if I've actually ever adjusted the truss rod on it.
That's funny. When I see that opening there, I just figure like you're
adjusting it all the time. No, it's just a look thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It does give it like a working man's look. It's like, this is a tool, man. I'm not here to be flash.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you was about is your thumb.
Yeah.
Right? Because one of the questions that I got here recently from someone here on the Patreon channel is, how do you get your thumb to be a steady machine?
Okay.
And I know that you're somebody that's got a very deep pocket.
So we're talking about the right thumb. So that's the plucking hand thumb. Yeah. A lot of my thumb work was accident and then super hard work. So initially it was the whole idea of I grew up in the Tommy Emmanuel camp of things. So in Australia, when I was growing up, Tommy Emmanuel was essentially a rock star. He was on TV every other week. His albums were in the top 5 of the pop charts. So he was just always around.
Wow.
And so that was, a huge sort of influence. And so playing like solo guitar was always a part of, although I have to say, in those days, I knew him as a Telecaster player, which is why I'm still a Telecaster player now, probably.
Wow.
So
I really
rock,
just always picture him
electric guy,
wow.
Fusion.
Really?
Yeah. I learned to play all these different styles literally through him.
Huh. I can't even register that. So what's the name of an album that he plays that way?
Well, his first several are all that. The big ones are probably the album called Determination and then The Journey. And so there's all these things like Stevie Ray sort of stuff. I haven't played this for a long time, but there's a song, it's called Stevie's Blues, and it's like, oh, that's really bad. That's it.
Yeah.
And so that's how I learned to do Stevie Ray stuff, from that song.
Oh.
Not from, because I didn't have access to music a lot when I was growing up, because CDs in Australia were cassette tape was like $25.
Right, but Tommy Emmanuel was on TV. So...
And all the time, and you could see him play, and I did get his cassettes.
Okay.
So they were what I sort of just constantly consumed.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
So and then, I would always play things solo, but I didn't really know how to do it, because no one really showed me, the Independence, Chet Atkins sort of things, like his Blue Moon. Have you ever heard that? What is it?
That's Chet or Tommy?
Tommy.
I see. Wow.
don't know if I'm playing it right. So I was learning all that stuff by ear off cassette tapes from when I was like 10 years old, and it was not right, but I'd do something like
right.
So, but I guess that just sort of started the whole thing, and then later, by like sort of my late teens, I was it was probably a twofold thing where I was studying classical guitar at university because that was the only music program in my hometown. And I was also, and then I got this opportunity to open for Tommy Emmanuel. And so I kind of, it was like 8 weeks out. So I deep dived into how to play solo guitar within those 8 weeks. And I think I just learnt the whole Chet Atkins alternating bass thing. I just finally come across that.
So when you say you did a deep dive, was it from cassettes or books, or was there something else?
I did get a VHS instructional video from Tommy Emmanuel.
Wow.
I'd just been given that, and he kind of broke down how to do what this thing was. But like, it wasn't really on his records yet. He just released one solo guitar album at that stage.
It's really bending my brain. Like, I really, like, it almost seemed the way you're describing him with all the different styles sounds kind of like how Danny Gatton was, except that Danny Gatton was never a celebrity outside of guitar magazines. And
I think it was just the Australian thing at the time, and just he was perfectly aligned into those things. It was just that time, that place. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so how did it go when you opened for him?
It was good. I think I played 5 songs. That was the day I met him as well, and so like meeting your childhood hero at 19 and then having to play in front of him was pretty daunting, and it was in my hometown, and it was like a 1,000-seat concert hall. And I'd never really played solo guitar before because there wasn't an outlet to do it when I was that age. I'd played at high school concerts, but that was it.
And what was your guitar at that point?
A Mason, like every Australian guitar player. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But it was amazing. It kind of, I ended up opening more shows for him from there, but that was, the start of my deep dive into isolating my thumb from my fingers. Yeah.
And are there, today, do you still think of it as something to work on? Like, do you do exercises or play certain pieces that are for that?
I've been going back recently to do it. So essentially it was that, but then I was always playing like groove, funk, jazz stuff when I wasn't doing solo guitar. So I'd be doing the Chet Atkins thing when I played solo, but then everything else was more like the music I still play. And it was only really, actually it was firstly John Mayer that I saw do it, his song Neon, which is essentially a rip-off of a Charlie Hunter song, which John Mayer does admit, that's why I know that, but Charlie didn't know that. I only showed it to him a few months ago and he freaked out. But then I discovered Charlie from John Mayer. And then I was like, I didn't think this idea of improvising fingerstyle was possible.
This is like Room for Squares, like that era, John Mayer? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And wait, but I cut you off. What about the improvising? What were you going to say about improvising?
Well, then I got a Charlie Hunter record after someone said, oh, he's sort of playing a guitar that looks like Charlie Hunter. Like, because the guitar...
Room for Squares, right?
Yeah. So that was sort of how I found out about Charlie. I hadn't heard him before that, and then I was like, whoa, that's what I want to do. That was what I'd had in my mind that would be awesome if you could do it, but I didn't think it was possible until I heard it done.
To play bass and have independent improvisation on top of that. Right?
Yeah.
Which, Charlie was doing like in the early 90s.
Yeah, so this was probably 2003 for me.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so a little bit later. Yeah.
So then, how did you? So did you then you tried to play in the way that Charlie? Was
Basically,
playing?
Immediately. So I did it
how
on a
did you
guitar that
start?
night.
Wow. Okay.
And then the next day, I went to a pawn shop and bought a Strat for $100.
Right.
Put 2 bass strings on it.
Right.
Rewired the pickup so that it had a guitar pickup and a bass pickup. So I pulled the pole pieces out of the Strat pickup.
Wow.
And then wired them to separate outputs. And then I did a show that weekend with a drummer and a sax player.
Wow.
Yeah, because it just blew my whole world open. I was like, and essentially then every song I composed was like an exercise in can I do this?
Can you show us something from that?
I think like the earliest one was like, so the bass line was this. I wanted to be able to go and be able to improvise. So I would just do that for hours that week.
Yeah.
And then so I think the melody I ended up writing for it was really simple. It's just like yeah. That was it.
Does Charlie bring his thumb over like that?
I'm not going to take total credit for it, but he started to after we started hanging out, and he does a lot now. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I haven't seen him play live in a while, but I used to see him play a lot in the 90s. I lived in San Francisco and East Round. And that doesn't, I don't picture his
Especially
hands
on
doing
the
that.
8-string, no.
Because
Because
the neck
it was
is just
so
too big,
wide.
yeah.
Now, when I had the 8-string, I bought one a few years later. I could do it on that, but my thumb and hands are unnaturally big. So, yeah. But now Charlie's on a 6-string guitar.
That's the hybrid?
Yeah. The neck is a lot easier to get his thumb around, so he does do it quite a bit now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is... Because another part of his thing, like he plays country blues.
Yeah, now.
You know?
Yeah. The old school.
Yeah.
What's the guy's name?
Is it Blind Blake?
Blind Blake, yeah.
Who I would imagine might have had some of that.
Yeah, and if you watch Charlie's video, he's definitely doing it now.
Wow.
Yeah, on the acoustic.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess influence goes in multiple directions.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So, but yeah, because I'd already been using my thumb a lot, it just seemed like a natural sort of progression to me. But yeah, then I'd just write songs that every song was essentially an etude.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow. And that specific kind of trio with sax and drums.
Yeah, for the start. And that way, the thing that was great about that was that I didn't have to play the melody all the time.
Right.
At the start.
Right.
So, yeah.
Huh. And were you writing things out? Like, when you say like everything that you were writing was basically an etude?
No, I was not. I still don't write out things enough.
Huh.
In that stage, I couldn't read and I definitely couldn't write music, and I could barely read. Yeah. So even though I'd been to university for a year doing classical music...
How did you study classical guitar?
I just got through. Actually, and in the end, to be honest, the pieces I ended up playing I learnt by ear. And they were really modern classical pieces that were almost sound like that stuff anyway. Like I still kind of barely remember one. It was like... wouldn't have used my thumb, but what is it? They were. They were really hip. I think it's called Incantation Number 10.
Okay.
And it was on an album by an Australian classical guitarist named Slava Gregorian, who was a very hip. He sort of was the same thing. He was on Australian TV all the time. He was like 18, 19, 20. But he'd won a few of the huge classical guitar competitions around the world already. And he was signed to Sony in Australia, and so he was sort of everywhere. But that song was on one of his albums, and it was written, I remember it was written by William Lovelady, who's a modern classical guitar composer. But anyway, yeah, but I learned it from ear, much to the dismay of my teacher at the time. Yeah. Sorry, lots of tangents there.
No, that's okay. We started with how do you get a steady thumb,
but I think that was all these things contributed to it. Like even that's piece, like it's that.
Sure. Because it's totally independent.
Yeah. And there's so much played by your thumb.
Right.
And I'm sure, I don't know if I ever saw a video of it being played. I've definitely never seen a piece of music. I couldn't access it at the time, but I could hear that it was all the thumb driving that bass line.
Right.
Off the recording.
That.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Right.
I could definitely hear it was.
And then what? Like what was your next? It sounds like every few years, like these just like big.
It kind of just kept developing through that. So it was always, everything was sort of that idea of the piece was made to work out what sort of feel I could solo. So everything just kept developing of like, can I do this over this, or can I do, like there would usually be a little bit of normal songwriting inspiration, but they always ended up being like, so if I hold this down, can I improvise over this rhythm pattern?
Yeah. So what were you listening to at that time?
It was sort of a variety of things. There was a lot of John Mayer, because I was basically, similar age. He's the songwriter I've grown up with.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah.
And an awesome guitar player. So that's was awesome. I think there was still a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers, which fascinated me because of the interaction between the guitar and bass parts still. Especially like the Californication album, where there was some really kind of hip, strange interactions between guitar and bass parts.
And were you trying to see if you could do both at the same time?
I was trying, but it never really quite translated. I couldn't tell you if I don't think I've really ever done one. Rage Against the Machine, which was a similar sort of idea, that stuff. I was listening to Norah Jones' first album a lot because I had it on cassette in the car. Then it was a lot of Australian jazz, which is a different sort of thing. And this guitar player, James Muller, who's always been the guy.
You sent me something of his. Really, I was so knocked out. Like, I never heard of him over here.
Yeah. And so, like, I know he played 55 Bar a couple of times. For those in New York, he used to play with Sean Wayland a lot. Have you ever come across Sean Wayland?
I know his name. I don't know his music. Keyboard
player. He's a great writer, actually, and he wrote some great pieces that are like some of my favourite that James has played over. An Australian bass player by the name of Steve Hunter, who he did play with Chick Corea for a little while. He's very much a sort of Jarko sort of sound. He was as a writer as well, his writing and composition was incredible. So I was listening to a lot of that, and and then lots of Charlie Hunter and whatever I could sort of find. I'm still trying to remember sort of then. I think it was, and lots of Schofield was then as well.
It surprised me that it took COVID for him to make a solo guitar record, because I've always liked, like, on his records there's like a lot of times he'll just play the intro or play the first 8 bars, and I always thought I want to hear more of that, like, because his groove is so personal and so deep, so I was glad to finally get to hear.
I would have liked to have heard more without the looper.
Right.
I would have loved to have just, because that's the thing, when you hear him just do those interlude solo bits, they're always the most incredible things of how he, weaves through progressions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we started from like the beginning of your thumb, and I'm wondering now that here we are in 2022, what is stuff that inspires you now?
It's back to a little bit of that similar thing again. I've been trying to work out how I can...
the Machine?
Actually, the last few weeks I have been playing some Rage Against the Machine again, because it is fun.
Yeah.
I also, actually, that similar era, there was another Australian band called The Living End. And
those guys were great.
Like a rockabilly, Brian Setzer, punk rock, AC/DC thing.
Great.
Gretsch player.
Yeah.
And I got to meet the guitar player for the first time at a festival about 5-6 weeks ago in Australia. And it was just, and he actually did a solo guitar set, and it was really cool because he did like some of their rocky songs, and then he did almost like a Chet Atkins medley, and there's this great like fusion, it's a jazz fusion rockabilly piece on their first album that's instrumental, and he played that as well at this just solo, and it was really cool. So that,
wow, does he play like with the thumb pick and all that?
No, he plays with a flat pick and then hybrid.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was really cool to see. And then, just actually, like, most of my listening is still sort of just the big guys like Frizzell, Julian Lage.
What do you listen for in Frizzell?
The first piece I heard of Bill's was Somewhere Over the Rainbow in the soundtrack to Finding Forrester. So I was like, you hear that song played so many times, and then I heard it in that movie going, well, who's that? What is that? And I think it was just the lack, like most people find in Frizzell, it's the lack of everything that's so beautiful. Like how he can do so much through harmony and space, and just like, and tone, that really inspired me from the first moment I heard it, which was probably about 2008, 2009 I first heard Bill. Yeah.
What do you listen for when you listen to Julian Lage?
I think it's just it's another easy thing for me to listen to. Like tonality is what I don't know how it is for you, but tonality is the first thing in music. If I can't handle the sound of it, I can't listen to it. So like, and obviously the guitar sound.
Right.
So the guitar sound, like, it's sort of, I guess Julian sort of ended up in a very similar place tonality-wise to me as well. So it's sort of nice to hear someone play it better.
That's funny.
And the writing of it, So I think that's sort of the major part there. And then over the last 6 months, I've listened a lot to Gilad Hexelman as well, who I really like a lot of his things as well. From every point of view, he covers a lot of ground, I think.
For somebody who's not listened to him, what's a good song or a good record or a good video?
His recent record, Faster, is pretty amazing.
Okay.
And I'm still confused by it because it was done all remotely through COVID, and I'm still baffled at who played first. Like drums, like it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, but he's really great.
Okay. Yeah, he's somebody that I've somehow managed to not do my homework on.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. This is from somebody on the channel.
Cool.
What's something fundamental in your musicianship that you believe has been essential to your success thus far?
To my success as a musician, I will say understanding chords has been the fundamental thing. So, like, I played in my high school jazz band, but I didn't know how to play any chord beyond a major 7 or a dominant 7 and the minor derivative thereof.
Right, but you would see these charts with these names that were like
and I used to
flat 5, natural
and I
this,
was
flat
sort of, I don't know, like it was just after high school, because I didn't have a guitar teacher through high school, and I don't think my head was in the place to really even take it in if I did. I had like great guitar teachers early on, and then everything I was trying to do was more in that Tommy Emmanuel side of things. I wasn't doing the jazz stuff. But when I started to realize that how a chord works and the mathematics of, a sharp 11, you just count up the major scale and to 11, and then you sharpen it and you add that to the chord.
Yeah.
And like it sounds like that has been like an amazing thing to be able to explain everything. And I did teach at a university for 10 years as well in Australia, but like modes and things I actually didn't know when I started teaching properly, like, and I realized I do know them, I just didn't have the names.
Right. At that point, you've been playing music long enough that you knew what they were, but you just weren't connecting the... Right.
I was just like, major flat 7 scale. Oh, that's Mixolydian.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah. A major scale with a raised 4th and a flattened 7th. Oh, cool. That's... Yeah, Lydian dominant.
Lydian dominant.
Yeah, like I didn't... It was in like that first week of when I got offered this position, and then I was trying to scrub up on the syllabus, and I went, oh yeah, cool, I do know this, I just didn't learn it that way. I learned it from the practical point of view of like, okay, we're up to this song, and this song has this chord now, and it's a major chord, but this isn't in the major scale and this isn't in the major scale, so I'll change the notes to the major scale to make it work.
To make a scale that works with that chord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how I learned everything. Even just, a dominant 7 chord for starters, where you just go, and you get to that and you go, so I need to flatten that note. And now I can play over this chord.
But I'm looking at this question, and I think, I'm not gonna disagree with you, but just from the outside, something that I see that I think is really fundamental to you is like, you just jump in and figure it out. It's like ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
Like okay, you saw Charlie Hunter, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna put together a trio. I'm gonna buy $100 Strat. And change it and do it and like figure it out as you go. Yeah. And okay, I got a job as a professor. I don't know the modes. I'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
And on and on. Like
I think I guess it kind of all relates to it. And, you know, like everything, what I see was actually having that understanding of how chords are made up allowed me to do everything else.
Okay.
Like even like the Charlie Hunter thing, because I wasn't there going, oh, let's play two parts at the same time. I already go, oh, okay, cool. Well, I know how a bass line works,
Right.
and what a bass line has to be to spell out a chord,
Right.
so that then if I'm putting something over it, and especially when you're writing solo guitar music, you're always going, well, how can I give you the sound of the chord with the least amount of notes?
Right.
So I, like, when I'm thinking about, you know, composing a piece so you can hear the tonality of it, it's that thing of like, well, if I'm going to write a melody, and it's to my detriment when I'm writing for an ensemble, because I still do it, is that, well, the melody's going to always start on the third or the extension.
Oh, because of all the two-part stuff
Yeah,
that you do on the
because
guitar,
of the
right?
root notes there.
Right.
So is the song major, then it's going to start.
Oh, right.
Is it dominant or is it major seventh?
Right. Huh. So that's, you still lean on that when you're writing.
Yeah, I still have that sort of ingrown, because I want to hear what the chord is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, I still can't quite get out of it. Yeah. But I think that just sort of has helped me be able to jump in all these different directions quickly, and I don't know, like, yeah, just makes, I think it's just so fundamental to music, and even to teach, because I can teach that way and go, well, this is how we're going to learn the modes today. We've got a piece of music and these are the chords, and we're going to work through it that way, rather than here's 8 scales you have to learn and then we're going to try and apply them next week.
Right.
Yeah.
I sometimes, when I'm teaching, if a student is working on an etude that's like a counterpoint thing, or even like a classical guitar piece, I'll ask them to analyze it for the chords, to just look at what it is. And I don't always even know, I can't always explain why I think that's important, but just from what you said now, I think like, well, I guess it is important.
I feel like it is. I guess if you're learning a piece, it doesn't really help you too much until you go to try to improvise over it.
Right. Yeah. What's the newest song that you have out is called Aging?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Getting older. Yeah. It was that idea. I think that was sort of in my head. The last couple of years have been pretty dark, like for musicians, and I got stuck in Australia. I kind of spent years building up to moving to the US, and that sort of fell apart, and then I turned 40 and I couldn't really have a birthday party, and it was just all those things you go, when I was doing it when I was in my 30s it felt okay, but then in my 40s didn't quite.
Yeah.
So that was one of those pieces, and it's a strange one because it's written in D flat, and I've been trying to play it solo in D flat, and it's sort of hard, but
can you play a little bit?
In D flat, and it's got that alternate bass on it.
you. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think I just wrote it strumming it for. I kind of remember sort of coming up with the melody at the same time as playing the chords, but I think I just quickly demoed it with an acoustic guitar, just doing that the whole time, and so then it just became the melody. So it's a bit of an afterthought of how to play it solo, which is how a lot of my solo pieces have actually been the last 12 years, where I write a song and then I work out how to arrange it solo, which has been fun. Yeah, which ends up with really cool things instead. Yeah. But yeah, so and it's a new album that's coming out maybe in March, I think, and so I just did these huge guitar orchestras on every song. Like there's all these things that I just kept going with different guitars and sounds, and so the cool thing on that song is I got this Mule like solid body resonator guitar, and I tune it baritone, so it's B standard, and in that song, like it's, I think on the left channel, it comes in with like the baritone with the harmonic trem and overdrive, the classic fake Mills sort of sound.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, I just mic'd it up with a condenser really close to the cone, no amp, and I realised it sounds like a banjo. It didn't sound like that to me at the time, but everyone's like, who played banjo on the song? I was like, oh, it's just me on this resonator guitar.
Oh, this fantastic guitar.
Yeah. But it has this sound. So that was actually just in my really quick having fun demoing it. But those parts are from the demo still, because we recorded the drums and bass later. But yeah.
Wow. Cool. I'll be excited.
Just got all excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah.
Well, Adam, thanks for being here. You're the first in-person person I've had. It's really crazy.
And the longest distance, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. People don't know Adam and I have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And haven't seen each other. We figured in what?
3
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Till today. So yeah. Awesome. Thanks for having me, brother.